Recently, elections were held in Iran and the results were quite surprising. I say this because a reformist candidate has won the election. In a country where conservatives have tight control over the executive, legislature, and judiciary, a person who talks about rights and freedoms, raises voice against the moral policing of women, and calls for increasing engagement with Western countries, won the election. Such a person becoming the president in the Islamic Republic of Iran would be nothing less than a surprising development. Now, what is the difference between reformists and hardliners? What impact will the results of this election have on Iran's foreign policy? Will there be any change in Iran's relations with India? Let's understand everything in simple language. In May, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi died in a helicopter crash. After this, elections were held in July to elect the new president of the country. By the way, the presidential elections were scheduled to be held next year in June. In Iran, the term of the president is 4 years and people directly vote to elect the president. Ibrahim Raisi became the president of Iran in 2021, so elections were supposed to be held 4 years later in 2025 to choose the next president. However, due to Raisi's death in May 2024, the elections had to be held a year earlier. Masoud Pezeshkian won in this election. 4 candidates stood in the first round, but none of the candidates received a majority. Therefore, a second round took place between the top 2 candidates, Masoud Pezeshkian and Saeed Jalili, in which Masoud Pezeshkian won with 55% of the votes. Pezeshkian is a reformist, while Jalili is a hardliner. Let us understand the difference between reformists and hardliners. Reformists are people who want a change in the existing system. They emphasize social, political, and economic reforms. They talk about things like democracy, civil liberties, government accountability, and human rights. They promote a moderate interpretation of Islamic law rather than a strict one. The person who has won the elections this time, Masoud Pezeshkian, is a reformist. The president before Pezeshkian, Ibrahim Raisi, was a hardliner, and the president before him, Hassan Rouhani, was a reformist. Rouhani was the president of Iran from 2013 to 2021. In 2015, during his tenure, the Iran nuclear deal was signed. After this, the sanctions imposed on Iran were lifted, and tensions between Iran and Western countries were reduced. Iran's economy started coming back on track. Then in 2018, the US pulled out of the nuclear deal, causing Iran's progress to slow down again. So reformists believe that engagement with the international community must be increased. Reformists generally get the support of the country's youth, intellectuals, business community, and urban middle class. On the other hand, the person who lost the election, Saeed Jalili, is a hardliner. Hardliners have a conservative ideology. They emphasize strictly following Islamic principles. They believe that Iran's traditional values should be preserved and protected from foreign influence, which often means confrontation with Western countries. The Islamic Revolution that took place in 1979 overthrew the Western-backed government in Iran, and all the power came to the hardliners. Since then, the ultimate control over Iran has remained in the hands of the hardliners. Hardliners get support from the clergy, rural areas, and the population that strictly adheres to traditional Islamic values. They believe that strict control should be maintained over society and that anything they consider inappropriate or un-Islamic must be banned. According to them, censorship of every kind, media, culture, social, political, is necessary to maintain order. Hardliners prefer a strong centralized government in the country under the guidance of Islamic clerics as it is right now in Iran. Iran's most powerful person, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, is a hardliner. Ibrahim Raisi was also a hardliner and was very close to Ayatollah Khamenei. Raisi's death is a huge loss for Khamenei. As we discussed, the person who has won the election now, Masoud Pezeshkian, is a reformist. That means his ideology is different from that of the supreme leader. To give you an example, Ayatollah Khamenei and former President Ibrahim Raisi enforced strict hijab laws. People protested against this, but they were suppressed. Pezeshkian has contrasting views from hardliners regarding hijab laws, the morality of the state police, and the crackdown on protests. He does not support strict hijab laws. He values personal freedom and choice. He believes that cultural and religious values should be promoted through education rather than being enforced forcefully. He criticizes aggressive enforcement of moral codes. According to him, the state's morality police should be more humane and respectful. He supports the right to peaceful protest and is against violence repression. So, his reformist ideology is quite different from the strict enforcement approach of hardliners. That is why he gets support from women's rights groups and young population. Pezeshkian's view is that ties with the West should be improved because doing so can end Iran's isolation and revive its economy. Due to this, he also gets the support of the business community, which is bearing the brunt of Western sanctions. The support from all of them brought Pezeshkian victory. People chose a person who talks about reforming the existing framework. Apart from him, all the other people who contested the elections were hardliners. He alone was a reformist. His victory will at least give the Iranian regime the opportunity to claim that free and fair elections have taken place. Now that a person has become the president whose ideology is different from that of the supreme leader, will Iran change totally? Will it now become friends with the US and Israel? Will censorship be eradicated in the country? No, nothing like this will happen immediately. Minor changes may come gradually, but foreign or domestic policies are not going to change drastically. Let us understand why. Look, one thing we must remember is that the Islamic Republic of Iran is a theocratic state. Here, religious leaders control the government. The president is directly elected by the public, so you could say there is some democratic element in the country. However, the reality is that in Iran, the president has very limited powers. The supreme leader can overrule any decision made by the president. The supreme leader has absolute control over all branches of the government. He has total authority over everything from the military and judiciary to state media. So, in every area of governance, the final say lies with the supreme leader. The current supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has been in power since 1989. Khamenei is a high-ranking cleric and the top religious authority in the country and is currently holding the highest position in the government. So Iran is tightly controlled by the Shia clergy, whose role is to ensure strict adherence to Islamic principles. However, this time the public has elected a reformist, indicating a desire for reforms. If the Iranian regime takes the message from the public seriously, there may be a possibility of some reforms. Otherwise, things will continue as they are now, and no major changes will take place. Iran will continue to resist Western influence. It will continue to support proxies in the Middle East like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Palestine, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, etc. Iran will also continue to strengthen its alliance with China and Russia. Its position on Gaza will remain unchanged, maintaining its anti-Israel stance. Additionally, Iran will continue to explore opportunities in Africa and Latin America to mitigate the impact of sanctions. There will obviously be no change in relations with India. Therefore, while the new president may attempt to moderate domestic policies, foreign policy is likely to remain largely unchanged. I hope this provides insight into the latest elections in Iran. If you would like videos on topics such as the French elections, PM Modi's visit to Russia, the Russia-North Korea deal, and the US raising the Tibet issue suddenly, please let us know in the comments. Let me end this video here. Thank you for your time.